The midnight diner cast a warm amber glow against the darkness. Two men in expensive suits cornered a waitress against the counter, alcohol heavy on their breath. One grabbed her wrist, his diamond watch glinting under the dim lights. "Smile for us, sweetheart. Or, I'll have your manager fire you," he slurred, tightening his grip as she tried to pull away. Fear flashed across her eyes. The few customers averted their gaze. No one moved to help. "Let go of her. Right now." The voice cut through the silence, deep and commanding. From a shadowed booth, a broad-shouldered man rose, his scarred hands and bearded face hinting at a hard-lived life. "Who the hell are you to interfere?" the taller harasser challenged. The stranger revealed a weathered veteran ID. "The last person who touched a woman in front of me still hasn't grown back all his teeth." Logan Reed had never planned on becoming a single father at 35. The military had been his life. 13 years in special forces had hardened him in ways civilians couldn't comprehend. He'd survived tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, only to have his world shattered by an IED near the Syrian border. The explosion left him with a permanent limp, recurring migraines, and nightmares medication couldn't touch. The real tragedy came during his recovery. While Logan lay in a military hospital learning to walk again, his wife Maria had been killed in a convenience store robbery. She had stopped for milk on her way home from picking up their son. A security camera captured her final act, shoving 4-year-old Milo behind a shelf before the gunman opened fire. The boy watched, hidden, as his mother bled out on the polished floor. Logan returned to a home haunted by absence. Milo had stopped speaking entirely. The military pension barely covered their modest apartment. With physical therapy draining their savings and Milo needing counseling, Logan took whatever work he could find AC repaired during the day and food delivery at night. The veterans support group he reluctantly attended called it resilience. Logan called it survival. Every morning, he woke before dawn, prepared Milo's lunch, checked his homework, and drove him to school. Every night, he returned home smelling of grease and exhaustion, only to kiss his son's forehead and head out again for the midnight shift. What kept Logan going wasn't hope he'd left that buried in desert sand. It was purpose. Milo needed him, and so he persisted, until routine became comfort and his son's occasional smile became reason enough to continue. The diner had become their Sunday tradition. Once a week, Logan allowed himself the luxury of sitting across from his son, watching him devour chocolate chip pancakes. It was there that Logan had first seen Ava Moreau 3 months ago, her gentle smile somehow genuine despite the chaos of the morning rush. Ava moved through the diner with quiet grace that seemed out of place amid the clatter of plates. Dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, no makeup save for a hint of mascara. She navigated the cramped space with the efficiency of someone who had worked service jobs her entire life. Yet there was something in her eyes, a watchfulness, a slight hesitation when customers asked personal questions that hinted at deeper waters. What no one knew, what no one could possibly guess from her worn uniform and sensible shoes, was that Ava Moreau had spent the first 26 years of her life in marble hallways and private jets. As the only daughter of William Moreau, real estate tycoon and billionaire, Ava had been raised in a world where doormen knew her name and reservations were never necessary. Her face had graced society pages since her debutante ball at 16, her every move scrutinized by a father obsessed with the family image. The gilded cage had begun to feel suffocating after her mother's death. Elizabeth Moreau, once a promising artist from a modest background, had slowly faded in the shadow of her husband's empire. Her paintings, bold explorations of identity and confinement, had been relegated to the guesthouse studio, deemed too controversial for the main residence. When cancer claimed her 2 years ago, William arranged a service attended by celebrities and politicians, none of whom had known the woman who taught Ava to see beauty in broken things. The final straw came when William announced plans to launch Ava as the face of Moreau Enterprises' new luxury brand. "Your mother's death has given us a unique opportunity," he had said over breakfast. "The sympathetic angle will play well with the female demographic." That night, Ava packed a single suitcase, withdrew the modest trust fund her grandmother had left her, and disappeared. For 2 years, she moved from city to city, working in bookstores, coffee shops, and finally, diners. For the first time, when people looked at her, they saw just Ava, Not the Moreau fortune. Not a potential business connection. Not a society princess. The spring sun cast long shadows as Logan maneuvered his weathered pickup truck into the circular driveway of the gleaming high-rise. Milo pressed his face against the passenger window, eyes wide at the fountain in the center of the courtyard. "Is this where rich people live, Dad?" he asked, his voice tinged with awe. Logan checked his reflection in the rear-view mirror, adjusting his company cap. "Some of them. Remember what we talked about: best behavior. Don't touch anything, and stay where I can see you." The penthouse owner had reported a malfunctioning air conditioning system, an emergency job that paid double the usual rate, impossible to turn down despite the late afternoon hour. The private elevator ascended silently, numbers illuminating as they passed each floor. Milo counted aloud, practicing the numbers he'd learned in kindergarten. The doors opened directly into an expansive living area, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. As Logan finished the complicated repair, the sun was setting, casting the penthouse in shades of orange and gold. He wiped his hands on a rag and collected his payment from the property manager. "Ready to go, buddy?" Logan called, rounding up his tools. They took the elevator down to the lobby. As they pushed through the revolving doors into the twilight air, Logan froze. A sleek black SUV with tinted windows had pulled up to the curb. The back door opened, and a familiar figure stepped out, smoothing a tailored blazer over a simple blouse. Her hair was pulled back in an elegant twist, rather than the practical ponytail he knew from the diner. "Ava?" Logan's voice carried across the courtyard before he could stop himself. She turned. Recognition followed immediately by shock crossing her face. For a moment, they simply stared at one another. The incongruity of their collision in this unexpected setting, rendering them both speechless. Milo broke the silence, tugging on Logan's hand. "Dad, it's the pancake lady." Ava's composure returned first, her expression shifting into a carefully neutral mask as she approached them. "Logan." "Milo." "What a surprise." "We fixed the air conditioner up there," Milo volunteered, pointing proudly at the building. "I got to see where rich people live." A shadow crossed Ava's face. "Did you know?" Logan studied her, taking in details he'd never noticed before: the quality of her watch, the designer logo on her leather bag, the natural confidence with which she occupied this space of privilege. "So I guess you're not really a struggling waitress," he said finally, unable to keep the edge from his voice. Ava's chin lifted slightly. "I never claimed to be anything. You serve pancakes at a 24-hour diner for minimum wage plus tips." "I do that job, yes." Milo looked between them, sensing the tension but not understanding it. With a child's innocent curiosity, he asked, "Are you a princess? You look like one today." A sad smile tugged at Ava's lips as she knelt to Milo's level. "No, sweetheart. I'm just Ava." Logan's jaw tightened. "So what is this? Some kind of social experiment?" Slumming it with the common folk before returning to. He gestured at the building behind them. "Whatever this is?" Hurt flashed across Ava's face, quickly replaced by coolness. "You don't know anything about my life." "Apparently not," Logan replied, taking Milo's hand. "Come on, buddy. We need to get going." For the next week, Logan avoided the diner, taking Milo to a fast food restaurant for their Sunday breakfast instead. The boy asked repeatedly why they couldn't have chocolate chip pancakes, but Logan deflected. In truth, he couldn't reconcile the Ava he thought he knew with the woman he'd glimpsed stepping out of that luxury vehicle. He felt foolish, though he couldn't articulate exactly why. She had never lied directly, yet something about the revelation felt like betrayal, as if a tentative bridge being built between their worlds had suddenly collapsed. The headline caught Logan's eye as he paid for gas. "Moreau, Iris found. Billionaire's daughter, slinging hash at local diner." Below it, a split image showed Ava in her waitress uniform, alongside a professional photograph of her at some gala, draped in jewels and designer clothing. The article painted a salacious picture. Ava Moreau, sole heir to the Moreau real estate empire, had apparently been hiding out in plain sight for nearly 2 years. Anonymous sources speculated about a nervous breakdown following her mother's death, while others suggested she might be gathering material for a tell-all memoir. William Moreau's representatives had issued a terse no comment. That evening, after putting Milo to bed, Logan drove to the diner, parking across the street to observe. A small crowd had gathered outside, mostly reporters and photographers. Through the windows, he could see the manager gesticulating wildly, customers rubbernecking to catch a glimpse of the famous heiress. But Ava was nowhere to be seen. After 20 minutes, Logan noticed the back door open slightly. A figure in a hooded sweatshirt slipped out, head down, moving quickly toward the bus stop. Without conscious decision, Logan started his truck and pulled alongside her. "Get in," he said, rolling down the passenger window. Ava hesitated, then climbed in silently, keeping her hood up. They drove in tense silence for several blocks before Logan spoke. "Where am I taking you?" "Anywhere away from here is fine," she replied, her voice strained. "They've been camped outside my apartment building since this morning." Logan nodded, making a left turn toward his own neighborhood. Neither spoke again until he pulled into the parking lot of his apartment complex, a modest 2-story building with peeling paint. Inside his apartment, the space was clean but sparse: a worn couch, a coffee table covered with children's drawings, and a small television mounted on the wall. Through an open door, Milo slept in his race car bed, nightlight casting star patterns on the ceiling. "You wanted answers," Ava said quietly. "What's your question?" Logan crossed his arms. "What's your angle? Why would someone like you pretend to be someone like us?" "I wasn't pretending," she said, meeting his gaze directly. "From what? A life of luxury? From a life that wasn't mine." She sank onto the edge of the couch. "Do you know what it's like to have every moment of your existence curated? To never make a single decision without calculating its impact on the family brand?" Logan's expression remained skeptical. "Sounds like real hardship." "I'm not claiming to be a victim," Ava said sharply. "I know exactly how privileged I am. But that doesn't mean I wasn't suffocating." She looked around the small apartment. "At least you built this life. It's real. It's yours." Before Logan could respond, a small voice came from the hallway. "Dad? Who's talking?" Milo stood in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. Iron Man pajamas rumpled from sleep. When he spotted Ava, his face lit up. "Pancake lady?" "Hello, Milo. I'm sorry we woke you. Are you having a sleepover at our house?" "No, buddy," Logan interjected. "Miss Ava just needed to talk to Dad for a minute." Milo studied her with a child's directness. "You look sad. Did someone be mean to you?" Ava blinked rapidly. "Something like that." The boy disappeared into his room, returning moments later with a construction paper bracelet, messily decorated with crayon and stickers. "Here," he said, holding it out. "I made this in school. It's for when you feel bad." Ava accepted it carefully, as if being handed something infinitely precious. "Thank you, Milo." "You're welcome. Dad says you gotta be nice to nice people, and you're a nice people. You always remember I don't like syrup touching my eggs." After tucking Milo in again, Logan returned to find Ava wiping her eyes, the paper bracelet clutched in her hand. "I got fired today," she said without preamble. "Frank said I was deceiving everyone, using the diner to get attention. Some of the regulars are selling stories to the tabloids about things I told them." She laughed hollowly. "As if I ever told them anything real." Logan leaned against the wall, watching her. "So what happens now? You go back to being Ava Moreau, socialite?" "I don't know." She looked up at him, vulnerability raw on her face. "I just wanted to find out who I am without all the money. Without the Moreau name attached to everything I do. I wanted to see if people would still." She trailed off. "Still what? See me?" she finished softly. "Just me." The kitchen table lamp cast a small pool of light in the darkened apartment. Outside, rain tapped gently against the windows. The world beyond reduced to blurred streetlights. It was well past midnight, but neither Logan nor Ava seemed inclined to end their conversation. "My mother was an artist," Ava said, cradling a mug of tea. "A good one," before she met my father. Her work was featured in galleries in New York, Paris. She had this incredible eye for color and texture. A sad smile played across her lips. She used to say that beauty isn't in perfection. It's in the places where things break and mend. How did she end up with your father? The classic story. Young artist meets wealthy patron at a gallery opening. She thought he loved her vision. Later, she realized he saw her as another acquisition, exotic, unusual. Something his peers would envy. Ava traced the rim of her mug. By the time I was born, she'd already started drinking. The more successful my father became, the more she retreated into her studio. And your father? Controlled everything. The house staff reported to him if she tried to leave without security. Her medication was monitored. Her artist friends were gradually pushed away, labeled as bad influences. Ava's voice hardened. He convinced everyone, including her doctors, that she was unstable and needed protection. Eventually, she believed it too. After she died, I found her journals. Decades of them, hidden in her studio. All those years, she was perfectly lucid, perfectly aware of what was happening. She just couldn't find a way out. Ava looked up, her eyes bright with unshed tears. My father's first concern was keeping her suicide out of the press. Jesus, Logan muttered. The day after the funeral, he had her studio cleared out. All her work, all her materials gone before I could stop him. When I confronted him, he said it was for my own good, that I needed to focus on my role in the company, not dwell on her problems. Ava shook her head. That's when I knew I had to leave, before I disappeared too. Logan was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. My wife died, because I wasn't there. I was halfway around the world when it happened. Surveillance operation in some village, whose name I can't even pronounce. She called me that morning, said Milo had drawn me a picture, wanted to know when I'd be home. I told her I couldn't talk, that I'd call back when the mission was over. The rain intensified, drumming against the roof. She stopped for milk on the way home from picking him up at daycare. Wrong place, wrong time. The security footage showed everything. His jaw clenched. She pushed Milo behind a shelf when the gunman came in, saved his life. By the time I got the news, by the time they got me on a transport home, she'd been dead for 36 hours. Milo didn't speak for months after. Therapist called it selective mutism from trauma. You know what the worst part was? When he finally started talking again, the first thing he asked was if Mommy died because he wanted chocolate milk. Ava reached across the table, hesitantly placing her hand over his. It wasn't your fault. You know that, right? Doesn't matter what I know, matters what I feel. He turned his hand to briefly clasp hers, then withdrew. Anyway, that's why we have pancakes on Sundays. First time he smiled again was when the waitress at the diner made his pancakes look like Mickey Mouse. I'm not very good at trusting people, Logan said finally. Part of the job, I guess. You learn to look for angles, for hidden motives. And what's my angle? Ava asked softly. He looked at her for a long moment. That's the thing. When those guys were hassling you at the diner, when you were afraid, that wasn't an act. I've seen enough fear to know the real thing. His expression softened slightly. I trust what I saw in your eyes that night. A floorboard creaked, and they both turned to see Milo standing in the hallway, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. I had a bad dream, he mumbled. Logan immediately rose, crossing to his son. Same one? The boy nodded, and Logan scooped him up with practiced ease. Want to sleep in my bed tonight, bud? As Logan carried Milo toward the bedroom, the boy peered over his father's shoulder at Ava. Are you still sad? He asked sleepily. Ava smiled, holding up her wrist where she'd tied the paper bracelet. Not anymore. Your bracelet helped. Good, Milo yawned. Dad says everybody gets sad sometimes. Even superheroes. The pounding on the apartment door came just after 7 the next morning. Logan checked the security app connected to the camera he'd installed outside his door, a precaution born of years in high-risk environments. The hallway footage showed a tall, imposing man in an expensive suit, flanked by two younger men with the unmistakable build of private security. The leader's face was partially obscured as he leaned toward the door again, but there was no mistaking the entitled impatience in his posture. Logan slipped from the bed, pulling on a t-shirt. Ava was already awake, standing rigid in the center of the living room, her face pale. "It's him," she whispered, arms wrapped protectively around herself. "My father." Another series of sharp knocks rattled the door. "Avalon Elizabeth Moreau." "I know you're in there," a commanding voice called. "This childish game has gone on long enough." Logan's eyebrows raised slightly at the formal name, but he said nothing, moving to position himself between Ava and the door. "How did he find me?" Ava's voice was barely audible. "Doesn't matter," Logan replied quietly. "You don't have to see him if you don't want to." She closed her eyes briefly, squaring her shoulders. "No. I need to do this." It was inevitable. William Moreau was an impressive figure over 6 feet tall, silver-haired, with polished good looks. His custom suit probably cost more than Logan's monthly rent. His Italian shoes unmarked, despite the rain-soaked walkway outside. His cold blue eyes, so similar to Ava's in color yet utterly different in expression, assessed Logan with undisguised disdain. "Who are you?" William demanded. "The person whose door you're pounding on at 7 in the morning." Logan replied evenly. One of the security men took a half-step forward, but William raised a hand, stopping him. His gaze shifted to Ava, who had moved to stand beside Logan. "So this is where you've been hiding," William said, his voice dripping with contempt, as he took in the modest apartment. "You've disgraced the Moreau name for this?" "Hello, Father," Ava said, her voice remarkably steady. "How did you find me? Did you really think those tabloid photographers were the only ones looking for you?" William scoffed. "I've had a private investigator tracking you for months. I simply chose not to intervene until your little experiment became public knowledge." His gaze returned to Logan, coldly appraising. "And what exactly is your role in my daughter's rebellion? Another charity case she's adopted to spite me?" "Mr. Reed helped me when I needed it," Ava said. "Something you wouldn't understand." "Mr. Reed," William repeated, as if tasting something unpleasant. "And what exactly do you do, Mr. Reed, when you're not harboring runaway heiresses?" "Dad?" Milo's small voice came from the hallway. "Who's at the door?" All eyes turned to the boy, who stood uncertainly in his dinosaur pajamas, hair tousled from sleep. Logan immediately moved to his son, placing a protective hand on his shoulder. "Just some people looking for Miss Ava, buddy. Why don't you go get dressed for school?" William's eyebrows rose fractionally. "A child. How quaint." His attention returned to Ava, his voice hardening. "Enough of this nonsense, Avalon. The car is waiting. We have damage control to manage." "I'm not going anywhere with you," Ava replied. "Don't be absurd." "Of course you are." William straightened his already immaculate cuffs. "The board meeting is tomorrow. Your presence is required to show family solidarity. After that, we begin the rebranding campaign The Prodigal Daughter Returns, having experienced real life. The PR team already has interview requests from major networks." Ava shook her head. "You're not listening. I'm not coming back to be your corporate puppet." William's expression darkened. "Perhaps I should make this clearer. You have 2 options. Return to your rightful place in the family and the company, with all the privileges and responsibilities that entails, or continue this ridiculous charade, in which case your trust fund will be terminated, your health insurance canceled, and your inheritance placed in a foundation bearing your mother's name." His smile was shark-like. "Your choice." "You can't do that," Ava said, though uncertainty crept into her voice. "My grandmother's trust has conditions regarding mental stability that any competent lawyer could argue you've failed to meet. You abandoned your responsibilities, took a false name, and have been working as a waitress despite having a master's degree in business." William looked around the apartment with contempt. "And now you're staying in this place with these people?" Logan took a step forward. "These people have heard enough. It's time for you to leave." William's eyebrows shot up. "Are you presuming to give me orders? This is my home. My son is watching. So yes, I'm telling you to leave. Now." The security men tensed, but William waved them off, his cold eyes never leaving Logan's face. "You think you understand the situation. You don't. My daughter has had these idealistic phases before. When reality sets in, when she realizes what she's giving up, she'll return to where she belongs." He turned to Ava. "You have until the board meeting tomorrow at noon. After that, the lawyers take over." With a final dismissive glance around the apartment, he turned and strode away, his security detail falling in step behind him. The discovery came by accident 3 days later. Ava was using Logan's laptop when a news alert popped up in the browser. Moreau heiress scandal. Sources reveal troubled history. She clicked on it reflexively, then froze as she read the opening paragraphs. Anonymous sources close to William Moreau claimed Ava had fled the family business after embezzlement allegations, that her breakdown had been triggered by audit findings. The article strongly implied that her father had covered up her crimes to protect the family name. "He's destroying my reputation," she whispered to the empty apartment. She was still staring at the screen when her phone rang an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Miss Moreau, this is Calvin Wright, Mr. Moreau's executive assistant." The voice was professionally pleasant, but clipped. "Mr. Moreau wanted me to inform you that the board voted unanimously this morning to approve the new public relations strategy. Your continued absence has been characterized as a medical leave, with all the appropriate paperwork filed. A press conference is scheduled for Monday to announce your return and new role as Director of Community Engagement. But I haven't agreed. Preparations for your office are already underway," Wright continued as if she hadn't spoken. "Your father also asked me to remind you that the deadline for amicable resolution has passed, but he's generously extended it until the weekend. After that, alternative measures will be implemented." The call ended before she could respond. Ava set the phone down carefully, her mind racing. As she turned back to the laptop, another notification appeared, this time an email. The sender was unfamiliar, but the subject line read, "Moreau Diner Incident. Footage. Available." Heart-pounding, she opened it to find a brief message from someone claiming to be a freelance photographer. "I have video of the 2 drunk guys harassing you at the diner last month. Interesting timing just before you were exposed, right? $5,000 for exclusive rights." Attached was a short, grainy clip showing the beginning of the confrontation, the same men who had accosted her the night Logan intervened. But something about their demeanor, their timing, struck her as oddly deliberate. Frowning, Ava opened a new browser tab and searched for images of William Moreau's executive team. There, in a corporate photo taken at a charity gala 6 months earlier, stood her father with his senior staff, including a younger, cleaner-shaven version of one of her harassers. It was staged, she breathed, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. The whole thing was a setup. When Logan returned home from work that evening, Milo chattering excitedly about a school project, he found Ava pacing the small living room, her expression thunderous. "Everything okay?" he asked, setting down his tools. "My father's assistant was one of the men at the diner that night," she said without preamble. "The harassment was staged to flush me out, to force me into a situation where I'd be recognized." Logan's expression darkened. "You're sure?" "Positive. I found photos of him at company events." She pushed her hair back from her face in frustration. "I should have known. It was too convenient, those men showing up just as my shift ended, being so obvious about it. They wanted witnesses. They wanted a scene. Why go to all that trouble? If your father knew where you were." "Because public exposure forces my hand," Ava explained. "A private confrontation I could walk away from, but once my identity was exposed, I'd have no choice but to either embrace the Moreau name again or publicly reject it, which would give him grounds to cut me off completely." She laughed bitterly. The perfect trap. Logan was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "So I almost got into a fight with actors. I'm so sorry, Logan. I never meant to involve you in any of this." Ava sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. My father will use anyone, manipulate any situation, to maintain control, even using women as pawns for publicity, Logan said, his voice hardening. Ava nodded. That's always been his way. My mother, me, we were never people to him. Just assets to be managed. Images to be maintained. They sat in silence for a moment, the magnitude of William Moreau's manipulation settling between them. So what now? Logan finally asked. Ava looked up, a new determination kindling in her eyes. I'm done hiding. Done running. If he wants to play this game in public, then I'll show the world exactly who William Moreau really is. The live stream began without fanfare. No professional lighting, no makeup team, no rehearsed script. Just Ava sitting at Logan's kitchen table, her hair pulled back simply, wearing a borrowed sweatshirt. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the laptop camera. But her voice was steady when she began to speak. My name is Ava Moreau. You may have seen stories about me recently, the billionaire's daughter found working as a waitress. I want to tell you the truth behind those headlines. For the next 30 minutes, she spoke without notes, sharing the reality of growing up as William Moreau's daughter. The controlling behavior disguised as protection. Her mother's slow deterioration under the weight of William's psychological manipulation. The expectation that Ava would sacrifice her own identity to become whatever the company needed her to be. 2 years ago, after my mother's death, I made the decision to leave, to discover who I might be outside the Moreau empire. Tears gathered in her eyes, but didn't fall. What I found was something I'd never experienced before: authentic connection with people who saw me, not my bank account. For the first time, I was valued for my actions, not my potential as a business asset. Her voice caught as she described the diner, the community she'd found there, the satisfaction of earning her place through hard work rather than birthright. I believed I had escaped, that I was finally free to build my own life. But I was wrong. She explained the staged harassment, the tabloid exposure, the ultimatum. My father has now given me a choice: return to the fold or be cut off completely. He's already begun a smear campaign, painting me as unstable, even criminal. She leaned closer to the camera, her expression intensifying. I once thought family meant unconditional love, safety, belonging. I was wrong. I've only found those things outside the walls of Moreau Manor, in a small diner where the coffee is terrible but the people are real. The view counter climbed steadily as viewers shared the stream, comments flooding in faster than anyone could read them. Some expressed skepticism, others support, but most simply watched, transfixed by the raw emotion in Ava's account. As she neared the end of her story, movement caught the camera's attention. Logan appeared at the edge of the frame, silently placing a supportive hand on her shoulder. He didn't speak, didn't try to insert himself into her narrative, but the gesture conveyed volumes. I don't know what happens next, Ava continued, drawing strength from his presence. I don't know if sharing this will make any difference. But I do know that I'm done living in fear, done letting my father's money control my life. She took a deep breath. Whatever comes next, I'll face it as myself, just Ava. Not the Moreau heiress, not the perfect corporate daughter, just me. She was about to end the stream when Milo darted into frame, wrapping his small arms around her neck. Don't be sad anymore, Miss Ava, he said loudly enough for the microphone to catch. Dad says brave people sometimes cry, but they get back up again. Ava hugged him back, a genuine smile breaking through her tears. Your dad is very wise, Milo. The live stream ended with that unplanned moment of tenderness. No slick conclusion, no call to action, just a woman embracing a child, finding comfort in simple human connection. Within an hour, the video had been viewed over 100,000 times. By evening, major news outlets were reporting on it, social media hashtags proliferating. Number Unmasking Moreau. Number Ava Truth. Number Moreau Madness. The law office occupied the 28th floor of a gleaming downtown tower, its reception area designed to intimidate with minimalist furnishings and floor-to-ceiling views of the city below. Ava sat perfectly straight in one of the uncomfortable designer chairs, her simple black dress a deliberate contrast to the power suits surrounding her. Across the polished conference table, William Morrow waited with his team of attorneys, his expression unreadable. 3 days had passed since the live stream. 3 days of media frenzy, of hashtags and think pieces, of strangers dissecting her life story. 3 days of William's representatives attempting damage control, their initial dismissive statements giving way to terse family matter responses as public opinion swung decisively in Ava's favor. Now, facing each other for the first time since their confrontation at Logan's apartment, father and daughter regarded one another with newfound wariness. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," William said finally, his tone carefully modulated. Not quite apologetic, but lacking the imperious edge she'd come to expect. "I'm only here because your lawyers threatened to freeze all my accounts if I didn't show up," Ava replied evenly. William glanced at his legal team, then dismissed them with a curt nod. "Give us the room." When the door closed behind them, William's posture relaxed fractionally. "That was quite a performance," he said, gesturing vaguely toward an invisible screen. "Very compelling." "It wasn't a performance." "No?" A hint of the old skepticism crept into his voice. "You've always had a flair for the dramatic, Avalon. Just like your mother." Ava's expression hardened. Don't speak about her. Like you have the right." William's eyes narrowed, but he let the comment pass. "What do you want from me?" he asked finally. "Money? Independence? Your name in the company masthead?" "I want nothing from you," Ava replied. "I want freedom, and the respect my mother never had." A flicker of something regret, annoyance, crossed William's face. "You've made your point. The public is sufficiently sympathetic to your plight, but this spectacle can't continue indefinitely." He straightened his tie, a nervous gesture she'd rarely seen from him. "The board is concerned about stock prices. The media attention is affecting business. And that's all that matters, isn't it? Business." William met her gaze directly. "I've built something remarkable, Avalon. Something that employs thousands. That creates real value in the world. You've chosen to see only the sacrifices, never the achievements. I see a man who treated his wife and daughter as possessions." The words hung between them, neither denial nor confirmation forthcoming. "What is it you propose?" William asked finally, his voice carefully neutral. "I want my independence. No more surveillance. No more ultimatums. No more smear campaigns." Ava leaned forward. "I'll make no claims against the company. I won't use the Moreau name for business purposes. I won't give interviews about the family. But in return, I want to live my life without your interference." William considered her for a long moment. "And if I refuse?" Then the live stream was just the beginning. "I have mother's journals, all of them. Every manipulation, every cruelty, documented in her own hand." Something in her father's expression shifted, a calculation running behind his eyes. "You're more like me than you realize," he said finally, almost approvingly, "using leverage when you have it." "I learned from the best," Ava replied without humor. William sighed, suddenly looking older than his years. "Very well. A clean break. You keep your personal accounts and the trust from your grandmother. The company attorneys will draft a mutual non-disparagement agreement. We'll issue a joint statement about your desire to pursue independent ventures with the family's blessing. And the tabloid stories, the embezzlement rumors, will be retracted. Printing errors, misquotes, the usual." He waved a hand dismissively. "It's easily managed." William stood, buttoning his impeccable suit jacket. "The paperwork will be delivered tomorrow. Once it's signed, we're done. Just like that. Just like that." He paused at the door. "You asked for freedom, Avalon. Remember that freedom comes with responsibility for your successes and your failures alike. No apology, no acknowledgement of the pain he'd caused. Just a businessman cutting his losses and moving on." Logan was waiting outside, leaning against his truck in the parking structure, his posture tense despite his casual stance. When he saw her emerge from the elevator, relief washed over his features. "How'd it go?" he asked as she approached. "It's over," Ava replied. still processing the surreal encounter. "He's letting me go." Logan's eyebrows rose. "Just like that? No catch?" "There's always a catch with my father. But for now, I'm free." She looked up at him, a tentative smile forming. "I'm just Ava now. No Moreau attachments, no inheritance hanging over my head. Just me." Logan studied her face, then silently opened the passenger door. "Where to now?" "Just Ava." She slid into the truck, a strange lightness expanding in her chest. "Anywhere. Everything." Autumn painted the neighborhood in shades of amber and gold as Logan maneuvered around a ladder to hang string lights along the awning. Below him, Milo carefully arranged pumpkins of varying sizes around the entrance, his tongue protruding in concentration as he created a pattern only he could discern. "How's it looking from down there, bud?" Logan called, securing the last strand. "More on the left side," Milo directed with the authority of a miniature foreman. "It's droopy." 6 months had transformed the abandoned corner storefront into something unrecognizable. Fresh paint in warm cream and deep teal covered the once peeling exterior. Large windows, meticulously cleaned, revealed a cozy interior of mismatched furniture, local artwork, and the unmistakable bustle of a busy cafe. The sign above the door, hand-painted in elegant script, read simply, "Unmasked." Inside, Ava moved between tables, refilling coffee cups and chatting with customers. Her hair was shorter now, cut into a practical bob that suited the constant movement of restaurant work. The dark circles that had shadowed her eyes for years had faded, replaced by genuine smile lines at their corners. The place wasn't fancy, no fine dining pretensions, no elaborate menu, just good, honest food, served in a space where everyone was welcomed, regardless of whether they arrived in designer clothes or work boots. Local artists displayed their work on the walls, commission-free. A community board by the door advertised everything from babysitting services to free English lessons at the community center. Ava had used her savings to lease the space, renovate it, and hire a small, dedicated staff. Logan had contributed his repair skills, spending evenings and weekends fixing ancient plumbing, rewiring outdated electrical systems, and building custom shelving. Milo had appointed himself official taste tester, solemnly evaluating each recipe as it was developed for the menu. When Logan and Milo entered through the front door, bells jingling overhead, several regulars called out greetings. The boy immediately made his rounds, high-fiving favorite customers and collecting the usual complement of candy and small treasures that somehow always found their way into his pockets. "Decorations are up," Logan informed Ava, as she emerged from the kitchen, balancing plates of steaming food. "Although according to our resident art director, the left side is droopy." Ava laughed, deftly setting the plates before a young couple in the corner booth. "I'm sure it looks perfect. Thank you for doing that." They moved together with the easy familiarity of people who had built something side by side, their interactions comfortable without needing definition or explanation. Logan would repair a wobbly table without being asked. Ava would have coffee waiting when he arrived after a long day of service calls. Milo flowed between them, equally at home, helping either adult, accepting guidance and affection from both without question. The cafe closed early that evening, a private celebration planned for the 6-month anniversary of opening day. The staff joined them for cake and sparkling cider, toasting to the cafe's success before heading home. In the kitchen, Logan reached into a high cabinet for clean dish towels, wincing slightly as the motion pulled at old scar tissue along his side. The physical reminders of his former life had faded, but would never disappear entirely like Ava's memories of gilded cages and her mother's slow surrender. They carried their pasts within them, shadows that shaped but no longer defined them. "I have something for you," Logan said suddenly, setting down his broom. "Been carrying it around for a week, trying to find the right moment." Ava looked up from the register, curious. From his pocket, Logan withdrew a small velvet box, clearly old, its edges softened with wear. "It was my grandmother's," he explained, opening it to reveal a simple silver band set with a modest diamond. "Nothing fancy. Not what you're used to. But it's solid. Real." Ava stared at the ring, then at Logan, words momentarily failing her. This isn't about convenience or arrangements or helping Milo, he continued, his voice low and steady. It's not about your money or my baggage. It's just us. If you want that. Dad, are you giving Miss Ava the special ring? Milo called from the kitchen, clearly having spotted the exchange. He darted out to join them, eyes bright with excitement. Does that mean she's going to be my mom for real? Logan ruffled his son's hair. It means I'm asking if she wants to be part of our family officially, bud. It's her choice. Ava looked between them, the man who had shown her what strength really meant. The boy who had taught her what unconditional acceptance felt like. Tears welled in her eyes, spilling over as she smiled. I don't need to think about it, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Yes. Absolutely yes. Milo whooped with delight, launching himself into her arms as Logan slid the ring onto her finger. It was slightly too large, imperfect, utterly precious. Can I be the best man? Milo asked eagerly, his small arms wrapped around Ava's neck. Wouldn't have it any other way, bud. Logan assured him, joining their embrace. Through the cafe windows, passers-by might have glimpsed the tableau, a small family holding each other in the warm light of a kitchen they'd built together. No photographers documented the moment. No society pages would announce the engagement. Just three people who had found in each other something more valuable than wealth or status, a place to belong. Exactly as they were.